أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما. ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا. ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما. ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا. وكان الإنسان عجولا. وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة. مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب. وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا. وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا. وكل إنسان ألزمناه طائره في عنقه ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا. ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك ونخرج له يوم القيامة كتابا يلقاه منشورا اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والشمس وضحاها والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها والنهار إذا جلاها والليل إذا يغشاها والسماء وما بناها والسماء وما بناها والسماء وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها تقواها والسماء وما بناها وما بناها والأرض وما طحاها ونفس وما سواها فألهمها فجورها وتقواها قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها كذبت ثمود بطغواها إذ انبعث أشقاها فقال لهم رسول الله ناقة الله وسقياها فكذبوه فعقروها فدمدم عليهم ربهم بذنبهم فسواها ولا يخاف عقباها صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We will be starting our program today, and I would now like to invite our respected scholar, Sheikh Mohammed Mehdi, to present his lecture with alawat salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
السلام أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله والحمد حقه كما يستحقه حمدا كثيرا الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد وآخر تابع له على ذلك اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله، اللهم لعنهم جميعا. ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. آمنا بالله، صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة. The final result of this mateship is marriage. And Allah says in this verse, and He put between you love and mercy. Just like this faith and religion stresses about people getting married and also gives the method to get married, there is also an importance on keeping this marriage, on maintaining this marriage. It's not just about getting married, but it's also keeping and maintaining the marriage. And as there are causes that bring about marriage, there are also causes to maintain this marriage. For example, if someone wants to lose weight, they go on a diet. What's the problem? Once they go on a diet, the means to losing the weight and the causes to losing weight are different to the causes for maintaining the weight loss. And that's why you'll find someone loses weight and then what happens? They regain the weight. They never maintain the weight loss until they go get their stomach removed, or one of the things that they do these days. Because the maintaining the weight loss or keeping the weight off is the difficult part. Getting married is not as difficult. It's maintaining the marriage and keeping a happy marriage that becomes difficult in this manner. If we look at many things that encourage us to get married, one of them is the fear of being lonely. This drives us towards marriage. Our carnal natures, our carnal desire drives us to get married. The want to be somebody or be somebody's, to have someone with you, someone that you're with and you're together, is another thing that drives you to get married. The need for a posterity, the need for children, the need for someone to support you. These are all drives that get you married. But do these things suffice in keeping the marriage? Do these things that I just mentioned to suffice to make the marriage successful? The answer is no. These are the causes to getting married. To keeping the marriage, it changes. The verse mentions two things: mawadda and rahmah. Sometimes in a relationship there is one. There's relationships that have mawadda, the love, and there's relationships that have the love with no mercy, some the mercy with no love, and some with both, some with neither. And we will discuss what these are over these nights. in order for us to understand what they are and how to have a good, nourishing marriage. Firstly, we begin with the word mawadda. What is mawadda? Mawadda, and we look at the word love, it's an unconditional love. See, when it comes to love and people think about love in a relationship, they always have this concept in their head, which is wrong, that things have to be fully reciprocated. Nothing is balanced in life. If you take a look in relationships, no relationship is balanced in life. A relationship between two people, there is always one person in the relationship that gives more. Even in a business partnership, you could be 50-50 partners. There's one person that puts in more of an effort. There's one that always works harder. Your relationship between a husband and wife, likewise. Relationship between parents and children, likewise. There is someone that always puts in a bigger effort. So mawadda is unconditional love. And it's also not only love that is within, it's love that is apparent through action. Love that is apparent through speech. This is what this mawadda is. What is rahma? Rahma is being tender-hearted, because when we're talking about the mercy, it's being merciful, it's being compassionate. Rahma is an internal feeling that we have. So when I look, it's an inside feeling that we have when we witness deficiency, when we witness weakness, or when we witness need. So we have this feeling within where we feel this internal feeling where we feel compassion towards someone. We feel that need towards them. And this causes us to act in a way to alleviate this person of this what? Of this blemish that they have. In other words, we see someone, sometimes you see when parents have a sick child, how are they towards this child? They give them that extra special treatment. And that was probably the running, if you ever take a look at the people that want to do all these extra things for a sick child. The thing behind, for example, that Make-A-Wish Foundation was to help someone that is really sick to have something before their last moments. So generally when we see someone deficient somewhere, we have this feeling towards them, and this is what rahmah is in these words. So when marriage requires what? It requires both mawadda and rahmah. Tonight we'll look at the word mawadda, and then inshallah in the following nights we'll talk about how it falls in a relationship. The word love and what love is. Firstly, just as an introduction to the things we do on a day-to-day basis, when we look at our acts of worship, something that is a prerequisite for these acts, you notice the first thing that you're asked whenever tells you what, someone asks you what are the obligatory parts of a prayer, the first thing is what? Niyyah. It's always about the intention. Everything is about the intention. That when I do wudu qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. I don't do wudu to cool down. If I do ghusl, I do ghusl qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. I don't do the ghusl in order to clean myself. When I pray qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. I don't pray to exercise. When I fast qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. I don't fast for, they're doing now, what do they call it, intermittent fasting, in order to diet. When I go perform Hajj, I perform the Hajj qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. I don't perform the Hajj for a vacation. Some people, they go to Hajj, they're there for a holiday. When you tell them you need to do things, they say, oh, I thought the rooms were going to be better than this. I thought, they start to look for all this. You're here qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. This is the purpose of you being here. But as for the things pertaining to the mu'amalat, because when you grab the Risala al-Amaliyya, Minhaj al-Salihin, you have the ibadat and you have the mu'amalat. The ibadat are the acts of worship. The acts of worship all have what? A niyyah. That I'm doing this qurbatan ilallah. What does qurbatan ilallah mean? Qurba means that I'm gaining proximity to God. I'm doing this for the sake of gaining nearness to God. But when it comes to mu'amalat, all the transactions, I don't need the niyyah. I don't say, for example, have you ever, when you're doing aqd al-nikah, you don't say, zawajtuka nafsi qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. And then the other party says, qabiltu qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. It's none of that. There's no intention there. When I buy a car, I don't say, I'm paying you $10,000 qurbatan ila Allah ta'ala. It doesn't work like that. With the mu'amalat, there isn't that intention. What's pertaining to the transactions in this world, they don't have a niyyah where I'm doing it qurba. It's not necessary. But with the ibadat, it is. Likewise with marriage and the things pertaining to marriage. There is none of this niyyah within. But when I act within this marriage and I do this marriage with that intention, it has a different flavor. The way I deal with my marriage changes completely. When I deal with my transactions in this one matter, it changes. When I go to do something with these intentions, everything I do begins to change. It changes completely. My life has a different bearing because I start to do it lillah. Do you know what that means? I bear more. You notice the people that work in these centers, the majority of people that are working in centers, if not all, are what? Volunteers. It's not like they've advertised a job where someone goes out and says, all right, a majority of people that work in Islamic centers and caretakers, the majority of them are volunteers. And this is why they bear a lot, because it's their choice. You go, for example, to the shrine of Ali ibn Musa Rada, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. You notice there's a waiting list there. You know, the people that work there, they actually put down their names and they wait. They have to wait for their name to come up. I remember the first time I went there was something I saw. And, your first experience when you're young, when you're first introduced to this world, that I gave the man my shoes. He actually took the shoes, he kissed the shoes, and he put them up. You ever seen someone kiss your shoes? These are the shoes in their understanding. See, at that point, your first time you visit, you don't comprehend what you're seeing. That this person considers you to be a zair, someone that's come to visit the shrine of Ali ibn Musa Rada. And he's there not as a volunteer only. For him, it's a privilege to serve in the shrine. He's been honored and dignified to serve. That Allah Azza wa Jal, when He gives you a task and gives you something to undertake, that if you are honored to do this and you do it lillah, it's different. It has a different taste. This is before you enter a marriage. You need to think of this. I am getting married lillah. Allah Azza wa Jal says this is a religious institution. This is a religious union. Even to get married. Do you know when we talk about intercession and shafa'ah? When you're into intercession, when you intercede for someone. For example, someone applies for something, they want a job. You know how you give your word to get them a job. Say it's a company you work for. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says there's no intercession like interceding for someone to get married. No intercession like it. So it's a religious union. In fact, it's something the devil's turning people away from. الشيطان يعدكم بالفقر. The shaitan says, when you tell someone to get married, I mentioned before that, they put so many obstacles in your way. Shaitan says, if you get married, can you afford to get married? Are you ready to get married? Oh no, stay single. You know? And that's what stays in your head. I'm going to remain single. And Allah Azza wa Jal says, marry, yarhamukumullah, even if you're poor. Allah will give you this wealth. Allah will give you riches. So you've already entered with this thought from the very beginning. Lillah, Bismillah, wa billah, wa fi sabilillah, wa ala millati Rasulillah. You've entered with this intention by Allah, in the way of Allah, in the name of Allah, upon the religion of Rasulullah, upon the way of Rasulullah, upon the tradition of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. This is how I'm walking. I'm heading in this direction. I'm heading in this way from the very beginning with this kind of love. Al-Imam Abi Abdullah alayhi salam, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, min awthaqi ura al-iman. You know, when you hear the word urwat al-wuthqa, what's urwat al-wuthqa? You know, when we talk about the rope, that strong rope to faith, he said of the strongest, this is the strongest. He says, min awthaqi ura al-iman, of faith. Strongest rope of faith. An yuhibba fillah wa yubghid fillah wa yu'ti fillah wa yamna fillah. To love for God, to hate for God, to give for God, to prevent for God. Lillah. Solely for Allah. So this is my head and the way it should be working from the beginning. I'm doing it for Allah. I'm walking upon this path, lillah. As Imam al-Baqir, Abu Ja'far alayhi salam, what does he say? وَهَلِ الدِّينِ إِلَّا الْحُبِّ. Is religion other than love? In fact, he goes on to say, الدين هو الحب والحب هو الدين. Religion is love and love is religion. Love for Allah Azza wa Jal. Doing it for Allah in this manner. Then he goes on to say, إذا أردت أن تعلم أن فيك خيرا فانظر إلى قلبك. If you want to see if there's any good within you, look into your heart. فإن كان يحب أهل الطاعة ويبغض أهل المعصية عفوا فإن كان يحب أهل طاعة الله ويبغض أهل معصية الله ففيك خير والله يحبك. Look into your heart. If you want to know within yourself if there is good within you, look into your heart. If you can see that you love the people that do good and you hate the people that do bad, then there is good in you. And know that Allah loves you. Then he says, وَإِن كَانَ يُبْغِضُ أَهْلَ طَاعَةِ اللَّهِ وَيُحِبُّ أَهْلَ مَعْصِيَةِ اللَّهِ فَفِيكَ شَرٌّ وَاللَّهُ يُبْغِضُكَ وَالْمَرْءُ مَعْ مَنْ أَحَبَّ. And if you see within yourself you love the people that disobey God and hate the people that obey God, then there is evil within you, and know that Allah hates you. Yes, Allah hates, I know. It's a hard word. Allah loves in the Quran and He hates. Allah loves al-muslih, the ones that fix things and help things and put order, and Allah hates the mufsid, the ones that corrupt and destroy things. So inside me, what do I love? Within me, what do I love? وَالْمَرْءُ مَعْ مَنْ أَحَبَّ. I was once seated in a gathering in one of the countries in the Middle East, and one of the politicians was on this television station. And one man seated, he said, I love this man. And I said to him, do you want to be placed with him on the Day of Judgment? And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, we have a hadith where Imam Ali alayhi salam says that even if you love a stone, you'll be placed with that stone on the day of judgment. So do you love this man? He said, oh, he's done a lot of good for the Shiites. I said, would you like to be placed with him on the day of judgment? Because the guy he was pointing out is a big thief. He's corrupt. He's robbed the country of a lot of its resources. But because he's politically inclined to like him, because you know how they have their parties and people like their parties, I said, do you want to be with this man on the day of judgment? And he kept evading the answer. Because deep down he knows what this man is. So from the very beginning, my love has to be for the good and righteous people. That's why when it comes to getting married, why should I find a righteous wife? Because a righteous wife loves Allah, and I want someone that loves Allah to love. Why should I marry someone from another faith? Why should I marry someone? I remember one guy came in and he wanted to marry a woman from another sect of Islam. So they sat down, and I'm not one person to shy away from conflict. When they sit down, I'll say exactly what needs to be said. Is the marriage permissible? Yes, it's permissible. I said, but it's good now because you're going to be happy and get married and it's all going to be all smiles. When you have your children, how will you raise them? She said, we'll raise them as Muslims. I said, okay. But you do know that your heroes are our villains. Straight out, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. And when you say honestly, when you sit there and say that we're all the same, it's not true, you're lying. How big, if you want to sit there and ask, if you ask someone from the other sect, is Abu Talib, the father of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, is he a believer or not? They'll say he's a disbeliever and he's going to Nar. Is this true or not? Abdullah, the father of the Prophet, is he a believer according to the other sect? He's a disbeliever. Amina bint Wahab, the mother of the Prophet, according to the other sect, is a disbeliever. Halima Sa'diyya, the one that breastfed Rasulullah, is a disbeliever. Abdul Muttalib, the protector of the Kaaba, is a disbeliever, all according to the other sect. So how do I raise my children there? Which side do I raise them on? Is it permissible? Yes, you can marry them. But how will the children be raised? These are problems we bring up to people. Why? Because when they don't listen, the problems arise after the children are born. How is my child going to pray? This is when the conflict comes in. Many people get upset with this subject, but it's a reality. Something you have to face. Just because it's not so where you come from or the family that you're in, then you have to remedy this problem with your family when you wish to move on. Allah Azza wa Jal, love is to know that Allah is the source of all your blessings. All the benevolence that comes to you is from Allah. That He gives, and what He gives us, what do we give in return? We eat the banquet and we return the bones. خيرك إلينا نازل وشرنا إليك صاعد. And He still gives. He's a source of everything that we have. He gives everything to us. So we give this love in this exchange. He loves this way of dealing with us. He does it, when I say He loves, He does it without a need from us in return. Allah does not require for us anything else. And this is why we should have such strong love. Because Allah gives us without wanting in return. When someone does something for you in society, you always expect, why did they do this for? What is the reason behind this? وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, what Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Those that believe love Allah even more. They love Allah in such a way, it's so strongly love for Allah. It doesn't deviate. It's a very strong love, the love of the believers to Allah. And because we love Allah Azza wa Jal, We love, and we talk about mawadda, where our Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I'm bringing this as an introduction for tomorrow's discussion on this. Why? I need you to understand what love is. The love, mawadda, where we actually hear it. Mawadda, we hear it here. That Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, when every prophet used to come and the people say, what reward do you want for what you've taught us? You've taught us our faith. What reward? What was the reward they used to all ask for? When we read Surah Yasin, اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون. That did not ask for any reward. Every prophet, no prophet asked for any reward. They used to all say our reward was with God. It's for free. It's a free service. We're here to give you religion for free. We're here to teach you for free. This is how it is. The whole concept of doing religion and teachings for free. Even when you get up here, you get up on the pulpit and you want to teach. One of the weirdest things you hear is sometimes when someone invites you to speak, they say, how much hadiyah do you want? And you say, are you serious? It's a free service. A hadiyah is a hadiyah. You give someone a gift, you give them the gift. You don't give them the gift, they're still going to do it. This is how it should be done. It's a free service because this is the way the prophets did it. When you get up, you teach lillah. When you're giving us a sermon, it's lillah. When you do anything lillah, it's not a paid service. Everyone said, what? Lillah. Except our prophet right at the very end, when they kept asking him. Did you know they actually asked him once? They said, Ya Rasulullah, tell us what we can repay you for this. And he said, my reward's with Allah. They came again and said, Ya Rasulullah, tell us how we can repay you. He said, my reward's with Allah. Again and again. Then one day as they were sitting, he said to them, Ayyuhan nas. He said, Allah has obligated you with something. I want to, قَدْ افْتَرَضَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ فَرْض. Allah is going to put a fard upon you, an obligation. فَهَلْ أَنْتُمْ مُؤَدُّوهُ. Will you fulfill this obligation? They actually did not respond. Some were about to leave. Because why? They thought he was going to ask for what? Money. They said, now's the time. I knew it wasn't for free. The whole time he'd been talking, it's not a free service. Now he wants some money. Now he's going to ask. You know, when someone talks to you for a long time, and then finally they pop the question, yeah, you got $100,000 to spare. I want to, you go, oh, I was waiting for it. There it is. And this is how they thought of the Prophet. There's a lot of munafiqs around the Prophet, a lot of hypocrites. No one responded. Did you know he came the second day and said to them that Allah has obligated you with something? If I ask you, will you fulfill this? The second day they did not respond. They had been begging him. On the third day he asked them and they did not respond. Then he said, Innahu laysa. What I'm asking for is not dhahab, it's not gold, it's not silver. So it's not any kind of wealth. And then they said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, ask for what you want now. Now that we know it's not wealth, ask. Then he said to them this, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I want no reward of you except mawadda, unconditional, apparent, outward love, love with speech, love with action to my near ones. When they ask in the tafsir of Jalaluddin al-Suyuti, who's one of the mufassirin of the other sects, he writes in this, and this is also mentioned by Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they both mentioned that when they asked, who are these qurba? They would say Ali wa Fatima and their sons, Ali wa Fatima and their sons, Ali wa Fatima and their sons. 3 times. Sallu ala Muhammad. Imam al-Sadiq says it was as if Rasulullah had requested from them the exact opposite of what they did with them. What they did with one after the other. The way they treated the progeny of Rasulullah. The way they dealt with the progeny of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Where they left them at this point. We talk about the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The manner in which they treated the Prophet, it was spoken of firstly by Allah Azza wa Jal, where He said, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ فَإِن مَّاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. He says that Muhammad is a prophet like prophets before him. If he dies or he is killed, which means yes, he will be killed because he was killed. انقلبتم على أعقابكم. You will turn on your heels. ومن ينقلب على عقبيه. Whoever turns on their heels, meaning goes back to their ways, فلن يضر الله شيئا. It will not affect Allah in the least. وسيجزي الله الشاكرين. And Allah will reward the grateful. The companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the good ones, they were martyred in Badr, they were martyred in Uhud, they were martyred in every battle. But like there was good ones in Uhud, they were the ones that ran, they were the ones that disobeyed Rasulullah. In Uhud, in Hunayn, in Khaybar, they turned away, and they were the ones that stood, the ones that stood their ground. But if you look at the love that exists for the person that is present, you could see by the way people dealt with them. And with Rasulullah, there was a handful. With Amir al-Mu'mineen, there was a handful. With Al-Hasan, there was a handful. And with Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, there were companions that the Imam would say about these companions. He said, I have not seen. This is Imam Hussein alayhi salam, who has ilma ma kan wa ilma ma baqi, who has knowledge of what was and what will be. He says, I have not seen companions better and more loyal than the companions that are with me. Just give you an example of what kind of companions, and this being the night where we remember the companions. First question I must ask myself, is the Imam in need of companions? Is the Prophet in need of companions? When you see a hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he says, لا تزيدني كثر الناس معي عزة. Ponder over this. The Imam is saying that I do not feel any mightier if there is an increase of people around me. You know, when we're moving, we've got, you know, with safety in numbers, when you're moving with your posse, you've got a whole group around you and you walk and you feel strong. You know, you're marching, you know, and you feel strong. The Imam says, I don't feel mightier if I have people around me. وَلَا تَفَرُّقُهُمْ عَنِّي وَحْشًا. Nor do I feel lonely when everyone leaves me. This is Ali ibn Abi Talib. He says, لِأَنِّي مُحِقٌّ وَاللَّهُ مَعَ الْمُحِقِّ. Because I'm in the right and Allah is with the one that's in the right. So when I walk, when Allah speaks about Ibrahim in the Quran, He says, Ibrahim kana ummah. Ibrahim alayhi salam was a nation on his own. They're a nation on their own. So what is the role of the companion? Do I need the companion to propagate my message? Once again, we go to Surah Yasin. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينُ. So all we have to do is give a clear notification. The Prophet's role is just to give you a clear notification that, listen, this is what's happening on the other side. This is what you need to do here. It's up to you. I don't need the companions to propagate my faith. So, what is the role of the Ansar and the companions of the Imam? Generally, when we look at the Imam, he gives us the role of how leadership is. The companion's role is to show us how to deal with our leader. They were the exemplary roles that you need to be around your Imam. For us to see how we must be prepared for our Imam Sahib al-Amr. How are we ready for our Imam? That you look at these companions, that when the Imam asked them, remember when I said with love, love is not only about what I have within, it must be apparent through speech and action. So when the Imam said to them about their loyalty, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn got up and said, Aba Abdullah, he said, Yabna Rasulullah, lawadadtu, with mawadda, he used the word lawadadtu. He said, I would love to be killed and then brought back to life. Then killed, and this would happen to me 100 times, and I would never. He goes, so that he said, this would happen to me 100 times, so that I can save you and these youth of Ahl al-Bayt from this massacre, from being killed. This is how much I'm at your service. Muslim ibn Awsaja said, Yabna Rasulullah, if they killed me and then they brought me back, then they burnt me, then they brought me back, burnt me to death, brought me back, and then that would happen to me 7 times, I would remain in your defense. One after the other, they'd show their loyalty, and you get a lot of them. One even said something, out of all the ones I've ever heard, this is mind-boggling. He says, وَلَوْ أَنْ عَلِمْتُ أَنَّ الدُّنْيَا باقية. If I know that the dunya is the eternity, وَالْمَوْتُ وَالْفَنَاء, and I know that death is what? The end. Which we don't believe. We believe death is the gateway to the hereafter. But he said, if I knew that death was the end, he says, لَآثَرْتُ الْفَنَاءَ عَلَى الْبَقَاءِ مِنْ بَعْدِكَ أَبَا عَبْدِ اللَّهِ. I would prefer not existing than to exist after you, Abu Abdullah. This is the loyalty of such companions. They were there to the very point where they would give everything up to the Imam. Even when we read Ziyarat Ashura and you're in sujood, we say, wa ashab al-Husayn alladhina. What is the verse? What do we say? Alladhina what? Badhalu muhajahum duna al-Husayn alayhi salam. You know, one of the explanations that one of our maraja gives, Sheikh Wahid al-Khurasani, gives an explanation of this. He says that, you know, when someone loves someone, you say, Ya muhjat qalbi. Muhjat in Arabic, muhjat qalbi, it's within the heart, from the inner of my heart, the muhja. He says that when you kill a sheep and the blood is spilt from the sheep, there's always blood that remains after all the blood within the heart. Within the aorta, within the heart, there's still blood there. He said, this blood doesn't escape, it's still there. He said, this blood is the muhja. He says, the companions of Imam Hussein, badalu muhajahum. Whatever blood they couldn't give, they gave to Imam Hussein. What you can't give, they gave to Imam Hussein. There was nothing they had that they would not give. And they would go in the direction to fight, to protect the Imam. Even to the point where one of the companions, who was known as Al-Abis, Abis ibn Abi Shabib, or Abis ibn Shabib, this companion, when I tell you something, each companion, we mentioned that Al-Hur was a warrior. They were all warriors, but there were different levels of warrior. There were different levels and different positions when it came to warrior. When it came, for example, to Burayr was known as the reciter of the Quran in Masjid al-Kufa. But Abis ibn Shabib was one feared warrior. When I say feared, if you read the narrations when he came out, no one would stand to duel with him. In fact, they would flee. No one fought him. They wouldn't come in. So he returns to the Imam because no one wants to duel him because of Abbas's prowess and how powerful he is. When he returns, he hears the Imam speaking to himself and saying, "Wa qillat nasira." I do not have any helpers. There is such a small amount of helpers, calling for helpers. So Abbas, upon hearing this, rips off his armor. He takes off his armor. Imagine someone removing their armor and their shield, and he runs towards the enemy. And the people said, "Ajunanta ya Abbas, oh Abbas, have you become mad?" He says, "Bala wallah, hubb al-Hussein ajannani." The love of Imam Hussein has driven me mad. And he goes towards the enemy. And even at this point, they won't fight him. They say, "Do you know who this is? This is Abbas ibn Shabib. When you attack him as if you are all one man." So they surround him and they begin to throw rocks at him and stones at him, and they throw arrows at him until he falls. And when he falls, they come in and they start to tear him apart, to take a piece, because he is known as a warrior, to say, "I've killed Abbas." Each one said, "Ana qataltu Abbas, I killed Abbas." And Umar ibn Sa'd gets up. He says, "La wallah, this Abbas, no one man could kill him. In fact, no one killed him. You overwhelmed him to take this position." But it doesn't finish there. The Ansar of Imam Hussein continue even after his death. That when he's taken to Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad turns up to the Masjid al-Kufa and he says, "Alhamdulillah alladhi nasarana wa nasara Amir al-Mu'mineen Yazid." These are his words. He said, "Praise be to Allah who has given us victory and given victory to the commander of the faithful Yazid." This is what he's saying. وَقَتَلَ الْكَذَّابِ ibn al-Kadhab. The one that has killed the liar, the son of the liar. These are the words that were used. Seated in the masjid is Abdullah ibn Afif al-Azdi. Abdullah ibn Afif was not just any man, elderly man, a man with real scars of mawadda, of love. He had lost one eye in Saffin, fighting alongside Ali ibn Abi Talib. He had lost his second eye in Nahrawan, fighting alongside Ali ibn Abi Talib. So this man was scarred with the love of Ahl al-Bayt. So he turns, he says, "Let me face this man." They face him towards, because he can't see. They make him face towards Ubaydullah bin Ziyad. He says to him, "Anta al-kadhab, anta wa abuk." You and your father are the liars. And the one that sent you is a liar, and his father is a liar. And then he begins to curse him. So Ubaydullah bin Ziyad becomes so enraged, he tells him, "Get up and kill him." So he calls out to the tribe of Azd, who he's from. They come and protect him, and they take him home. So Ubaydullah bin Ziyad sends an army to capture him at night. But this companion does not stop there. Even as a blind man, he uses the instruction of his daughter to fight them off when they come in. When they come in, he fights them off until they capture him, and they also sever his head. And he's the first martyr after Karbala. Just as we have Muslim as the first martyr before Karbala, this is the first martyr after Karbala. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. The hadith says, whenever, and Imam Rada, it says to Ibn Shabib, if you want to be with the companions of Imam Hussein, he says, this is what we all want. We want to be with these people. He says, when you hear about the tragedy of the Imam, say, "Ya laytana kunna ma'hum fanafuza fawzan azima." So that's why we say, "Ya laytana kunna ma'hum fanafuza fawzan azima." Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma inna nas'aluka wa nad'uka ya Allah. Ya Allah, 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 Ya Allah. Oh Allah, have mercy on our deceased. O Allah, cure our sick. O Allah, fulfill the needs of all those that are present. O Allah, do not take us from this world until you are pleased with our actions. O Allah, find mercy in our hearts to forgive those that have transgressed against us, and find mercy in the hearts of those that we have transgressed against, so that they may forgive us. O Allah, hasten the reappearance of our master Al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan al-Mahdi, and grant us the opportunity to serve him and to be martyred by his side. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma kun li waliyika صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا رحمتك يا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، ورحمة الله وبركاته وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات وإلى أرواح موتانا وموتاكم ولقضاء الحوائج وشفاء المرضى. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.